Tuesday. I'm Kendra Dixon from Stall High, and this is a little show we do every Tuesday at noon Central Time called Stall Talk. And this is a time where we get to really dive deep on the mental health for horses movement. What is that? Well, I personally believe that the horse industry has done an amazing job, especially the last 20 years, okay, really providing some amazing products, education, services, all focused around the physical health of the horse. Today, we have access to swim facilities, chiropractic, wonderful vet care, better feed programs than we've ever had, amazing supplements and nutrition for our horses. But as a whole, there's a lack of awareness, or should I say a lack of education and a lack of appreciation for the mental health of the horse. So if you're watching today, or maybe you're catching a replay and your horse is physically sound, you know that your horse is physically healthy, but your horse is not responding to your hands, starting to develop some behavior problems, and you've tried everything you know to fix it, and your horse is still not working, there is always a mental root to blame. And that's how we can help you through the Stall High app. I'm very excited about today. We're going to grab Stall High gear and get going really quickly. And we're going to change the order of events this week. We're going to start with video reviews, a little something that I call Review My Ride. If you have a horse that you think, I'm not really sure why my horse isn't working barrels, but you want me to personally take a look, we can fix you up with Review My Ride. Lori, that's my amazing right-hand woman at Stall High, Lori Roth in Nacogdoches, Texas. And so here shortly, she'll find a link for Review My Ride, and she will drop it both in the Zoom and then in the comments later today. We'll let you guys have access to Review My Ride if that's something you're interested in today. So episode 8 of Stall Talk is brought to us by a brand new sponsor. You're going to get to meet him today. I'm so excited to get to learn from him today. So a company called Life Enthusiast. I'm already excited about that because the older I get, guys, the more I enjoy learning. Once that curiosity button clicked and I started realizing how advantageous it was, how much better my horse worked when I committed to seeking knowledge, okay, both for myself and my horse, things became a lot easier and a lot more fun. So special thanks to Life Enthusiast for sponsoring today's show. And we'll introduce the founder a little later in the episode. We're going to go ahead and get started with Jordan. Jordan, are you able to come on camera and say hi? Jordan's one of our newest members.
Hi.
Hey, how's your day?
Good.
Good. So I just want to brag on you for a minute. So you reached out to us because you have this big, powerful horse. He was started as a team roping horse, both ends, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Someone started him on barrels and he was kind of a natural, but we really don't know the process of training. We don't know how much time he had on the barrel pattern. We don't know the exact way he was started. And by the time you got him, he was already rocking and clocking in the 1D.
Yeah.
And you've done very well with him in the span of a year and a half, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And you can make it to the short round in college rodeos, but then what happens?
Oh, I'll hit all 3 of them sometimes.
Okay. So you reached out because he's kind of a freight train. He's big, he's strong, and he was basically just strong arming you and taking it away from you. Okay. So to your credit, you're a very skilled rider. And I love that you took responsibility. So last week when you and I had a private coaching session, you said, you know what? I knew there were some flaws. I knew everything wasn't exactly right and it could be better, but because I could get by with it, I could get him by, I just kind of allowed it. But through that, and sometimes I think we can, like we think, man, I'm in the running for a big year-end award. Like I understand that we have a big fat question mark at the third barrel or whatever it may be, but I just need to get by. I just need to get by these next 3 rodeos and then I can fix it without really doing the math which is something that has really been explained to us this year with Matt Reeves as our Monday coach at Stall High. He is such a logical coach, really teaching people how to view our rodeo career, whether it's a hobby or whether you're trying to get to the national finals and it's your full-time job. Matt brings his veteran expertise as an 8-time NFR qualifier to help us make a business plan so that we don't waste time, we don't waste miles, we don't waste entry fees, and we don't burn up a good horse, which apparently is what I did and I didn't know it. But you said, like, I take responsibility, I kind of let him get by, but if you're not really doing the math and calculating the long-term effects of that, and Tricia and I talked about this today, every run that a horse makes incorrectly, or every time a horse, whether we know it or not, whether we mean to or not, you were cognizant because you're a horseman. You're like, I don't know if something's not right, but we're in the 1D. And so you made a calculated decision, right? Now we've got to circle back and fill in whatever question marks he has. But if you're not aware of the price you're going to pay for every horse repeating the wrong thing every weekend, and all you're doing is hoping, you're hoping for a different outcome. Sometimes we're real enticed, we're real incentivized by a quick fix. Like, oh, well, so-and-so's got these awesome bell boots and they've got some kind of super therapy band, sewn in them. And I've heard that really works. Like, we're always grabbing and reaching for a quick fix. All the while, I don't know why we're so intimidated just to learn, just to slow down and invest some time in knowledge to really locate the root issue and know how to solve it. So I'm so proud of you for being here, because you're younger, right? You're college rider. You've got big dreams. You want to eventually get to the NFR. And I just applaud you for being steward enough of your horse and caring enough about your horse's mental health to invest in mentorship. So if you're okay, I'm going to share my screen and we'll go through your video. Is that okay? Tell me, fine. You've been in the program for a little over a week.
Mm-hmm.
The video we're going to show today is obviously before that week. What have you learned in a week?
I've learned a lot about like my hands, and that I've been like pulling on too much, which I know I do. Like, I just didn't realize that it was like so much, and that my feet get behind me a lot more than I thought they did. That I have like a lot to work on with him specifically in my body position. I've never had a horse like this that just can, like, obviously I'm not huge, but I've never been tossed around by one. Like, he can toss me around. Like, he literally makes me sometimes feel like a sack of beans up there. I'm just like, have no control. And then I get scared because he's hauling and I have no control over my body, and I'm just start pulling because I don't know where to go.
Thank you for being transparent about that, because so many people are so judgmental of the horse. This horse, I just can't get with him. Oh, hey. If they're in our possession, we are stewards. And I think what happened to me was I made the mistake of wanting everything to be easy for me. I very seldom put myself in my horse's shoes. I didn't really try to make things easy for them. I wasn't willing to change my style, even if it meant they had a better experience. It was all about finding a horse that fit me. And I see that pattern repeat over and over and over. So thank you for just being honest about that. And Tricia and I talked today. There are some rare individuals. There's going to be some rare athletes. When you ride one of that caliber, it's a different feel. And quite frankly, most competitors in the sport of barrel racing will never feel it. They're going to have a nice local level horse, but when you step on a higher caliber horse that's stronger, faster, and more athletic, and either reactive or explosive, it's all together.
That's what I've always like. That's what I've recently like taken to explaining to him as too, is that sometimes he feels reactive instead of responsive. Where like I put my foot on him, he jumps 6 feet to the left because I put my left foot on, and he's like gone. And I'm instead of like moving and stuff. And honestly, like, I knew I was like squeaking them by and stuff, but I never had one that's turny. Like, my dad's never bought me or got me anything that's kind of like ready to go win. It was like, okay, here's a young one, figure it out, then you can win, then we'll sell them and I'll buy you something better, kind of deal.
Mhm.
Like, we kept building up. And so I've never had something like this. So everything I've had is like, okay, kind of bring him back, make him turn, where he's like, gone, turn. If you just, so I don't know what to do to fix him, honestly. It's like, yeah, I don't know what to do, so I'll just keep doing what I'm doing.
Okay, so I want you to watch last night's class with Matt Reeves, because we were talking to Kevin about foot placement, and his horse, which he is training from day one. Okay. He's starting to recognize how his stirrup placement, his foot in the stirrup, makes a big difference in how Summer responds to him. And she's softer and she's responsive, not reactive. And Matt was talking about how we just get in a rut, and I did for a long time. We just keep putting our spur or our foot in the same place, but we keep expecting a different result. And so we just push a little harder, and it just makes the problem worse. And we don't really think about different places to put our feet. And we just talked about that last night in class. So be sure to catch the replay. Lori, will you make a note to make sure Jordan gets access to that so it's quick and easy to find? Let me share my screen. And this was one of the videos that you sent in for your private coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be interesting to get your take on it now that you've been in the program and you've been watching the online clinics. So big shout out to lifeenthusiast.com. We're going to learn about them today and how we take care of ourselves better than we take care of our horse sometimes, or we take care of our horses better than we take care of ourselves sometimes. All right, let me go back to this one right here. All right. So where was this run, Jordan?
Is a college rodeo in Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Okay. And how long ago?
It was the college rodeo last year.
Okay. And so how long had you had him at this point?
I had him for maybe a year, but I did have another horse that I was running like kind of in tandem with him that I at the time thought fit me better. And that horse got hurt. So I had to go back to running just him basically. And I've been running him all summer at the amateurs, and I started out doing really good, and then it's kind of like obviously compounded, and I started like I placed the college rodeo, I placed a couple, like won the 1D, placed in the 1D at a couple of jackpots. Placing at the like the open rodeos and the amateur rodeos and stuff. And then I just got more consistently where I'd hit to place instead of actually place.
Okay, so it's in slow motion now. What can you see in slow motion that you could not see before you joined the mentorship program?
That he's already like setting up and leaning, and I'm to turn that second barrel or turn his first barrel from like way far out. He does not hold his, like, he doesn't like hold his hip in there and like turn. He just kind of does that, and then he gets mad because I'm pulling on him, puts his nose right in the air.
Okay. So before that happens, so people usually just stop right here and they say, I don't know why he's doing that. I'm going to try a tie down, or I'm going to try a nose band, or I'm going to try a ring bit, or I'm going to try bit guards, or I'm going to try a bonnet. I mean, we try all these different gadgets and devices without really looking at the root issue. What happened before this? So we talk a lot at Stall High about mental health for horses. Where is the mental block? It typically stems from a biomechanical error. And this is the mission that I'm on specifically for the barrel horse industry. Now, Stall High isn't just for barrel racers. We have a variety. We have a team of coaches. It's for ropers, reiners, cutting trainers, trail riders, weekend riders that just want to enjoy their horses' recreation. We have an equine behavior specialist, a mental focus coach. Like, we've got a great variety. But for me personally, on Tuesdays, my gig is barrel racing. Those 3 barrels are what I love doing most when I'm in the saddle. So it really wasn't taught to me early enough to consider biomechanics, the mechanics of a thing. So before he gets here, before he tells you big fat ouch with his body language, what happened right here? There's our first clue. And you gotta look real close to catch it. Right there.
I pull on with my outside hand.
Yep. And so I know why you did it. I've done it. Just trying to get by. Let me just check in right here and just kind of just keep him from dropping too hard. We can do that, but it's a quick fix for a symptom. It doesn't really provide the cure. And once we can understand why he's trying to drop and why he's just going non-responsive and turning into like a brick wall, in the shoulder and the face, then we can fix it and stop relying on, quick fixes. So that one reminder to him before you got there, in his mind, I think he was already triggered. Like, here we go again. It's probably going to hurt again. Okay. So we've got different things going on here. When your seat leaves the saddle right here, this is something that I didn't think about, Jordan. So just looking at it from a scientific point of view, anytime our arm moves or leg moves or our torso comes up and then it comes down, well, that is weight in motion. So the further we go and the faster we fall, the horse absorbs the shock or doesn't. And if our stirrups are too long, this is one thing you and I talked about, our knee is not allowed to work as a natural shock absorber. And so a lot of people say, well, I want to ride in long stirrups because that's where I'm comfortable. Well, is that comfortable to your horse? Just think about zero shock absorbers. So every time you get jostled around and your butt leaves, and the faster and the stronger the horse, the more that's going to happen. You and I just talked about that. Well, the harder you're going to crash right in the middle of their back. So to them, that can feel like a hot shot to the back. Maybe it's a leg, maybe it's a hand on the rein, maybe it's a torso, coming down. So that right there. So this big move, I think, is one thing where he was like, oh, here comes another blow. And what else do you see?
My elbow's behind my torso.
Mm-hmm. When our elbow gets behind our backbone, you can always measure the rein. It's going to be in a straight line. And when you think about that, when you go back to that moment and you really put yourself in that moment again and think, wow, I was pulling pretty hard. But we get adrenaline pumping and we get excited to win, have an opportunity to win something. And we don't focus on these things. We don't really consider the value or how much it actually means to our horse, how much it feels to our horse. So at this point, that is way too much leverage on the rein. It's generating a lot of energy, pressure, force on the bars of his mouth. And he's telling you physically, because that's the only way they can communicate, this is painful. Ouch, this hurts. And nobody does it on purpose, Jordan. I didn't understand why things weren't working. And now looking back, I just accepted status quo training, what was popular, as if it were best. I just assumed that because it worked for some people, that it would work for me and my horses too. I didn't know about biomechanics. I didn't consider the amount of pressure on a horse's face.
Which, like, he's real, like, he gets stronger the more you pull on him. He'll pick a fight with you if you pick a fight with him. But if, like, he's 1,500 pounds, he's huge. And I can ride him around, like, I can run the rope pattern on him and halter and lead rope because he lets me. Like, if he just lets me do that. If he wanted to say no, he could. He's real nice. He's real gentle. He's really broke. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why I think I need to pull on him so much, because he's so much comeback.
Because he's dropping. You're trying to protect yourself and salvage the barrel pattern. And all the while, he's just trying to protect himself physically. And so it's oil and water right now. I say that a lot. But when we have a chance to go back and rewire. So right now, he's got deep grooves, deep mental patterns, and he's got muscle memory because he's been trained to tense up. And it's a natural response. When our reins become too forceful, when our hands are in the wrong position, and it just happens more times than not with traditional training that is still very popular today. Yes, I will consent. Some horses make it to the top, but look at the general population. Most don't. And most are screaming, like they are begging and pleading for someone to just pay attention to the mechanics and how they mentally feel. It stems from physical, but it also causes a mental injury or a mental scar. And that's what we want to remove. So what do you notice about your body right now?
I'm leaned forward and I'm pulling on with my, like I'm trying to squeak him by that barrel, which obviously I don't. So I'm like leaned over and like trying to like squeak him by, pulling on my outside hand, trying to square him back up. And he just is not pleased about that either. He's not like when he lets me do a lot of stuff. He is the most forgiving animal I've ever met. Cause oh my God, if I rode him, if I was him and he rode me like I ride him, I'd be like, get away, child. But I'm just leaned over and kind of pulling on him and then pulling him more on the backside because he steps out to get by it. So I don't feel like he's going to finish it. So I pull on him again to try and help him finish it. Which really isn't his fault. And then I do the same thing on this barrel.
So have you had a chance to do some of the slow work with him yet?
I did it one time, and then my dad took him home from the college review that we went to last weekend, just because we have been having some problems with him that we want to make sure aren't like vet related too, because whatever. So he's going back to the vet, not this Friday, but next Friday, because that's the soonest that he could get us in or whatever. And my dad's going to bring him back, and I'm going to like start working on him, and he can have a little like mental break here too, and then physical break. We're gonna get him adjusted by the guy who usually adjusts him, just to make sure that, because he has been doing some stuff that's like really weird for him, just to make sure that he's not like physically having issues.
Gotcha. Okay. So I asked about slow work. James Davison, he's our coach on Wednesdays. That is our Wednesday mentor. I mentioned he is an equine behavior specialist. I have learned so much from him. I honestly wish I could go back several decades and have known him then. I've calculated, I've been very blessed with competition and with horses that I've sold. Doing the math, looking back, the things that I've learned just from James Davison alone this year, I believe I could have easily added 4 million to my earnings and income over the past decade had I met James and understood what he teaches sooner. 4 million, that's sizable. And I was being very conservative with that estimate. So he said something this year that really, I was so glad the way he explained it, okay? Because we kind of get hung up on the idea of slow work. Oh, I've been doing slow work for 7 months. This horse should be ready to go. It doesn't matter how slow you go. What matters is how smooth you go. So just being slow for being slow doesn't matter. For me, I hyper focus. My slow work is so purposeful and it's so intentional. When I track a horse around a barrel, that is my world. Like that's where I make a living. That's where I accomplish my goals. And I want to influence every ounce, every thought, every step, every centimeter of that turn. And you can only do that. You can only attend to those teeny tiny details at a walk. So I really liked how he challenged us not to just check slow work off the list, but how smooth is your slow work? How purposeful, how successful is your slow work? Is it reaching the desired effect? All right. So I asked you to send in some pictures. Do you ride in split reins?
Yeah. Okay. A lot.
Okay. And just on this day, you didn't have them handy?
I put, these are the reins that when I run him, I usually use. So I put those on him So you can see that.
Okay. I would say, and you've got lanyap on him.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about rein length in class, but I would absolutely change the length of the reins. Okay, that's the first thing. They shouldn't be long enough to where you could kind of do slow work or kind of do, warm up. I always have split reins on at the house. If I'm trail riding, if I'm working during the week, the only time I put a single rein on is when I'm going to run the barrel pattern. And so just right now, just sitting on him, just sitting in the parking lot with that little roping dummy right there. You want him to have full freedom to stretch his neck and just relax. And I understand you took these for the pictures that I requested. So we're definitely going to change these reins. We'll talk about it tonight in class. I'm also curious about your head stall. I think we could go up with it. Another thing that James challenged me, and we're at the 12:28 mark, about my foot placement. I absolutely love that you don't have your whole foot jammed in there.
It makes me anxious. I cannot put rubber bands on. Makes me so anxious to have my foot all the way in there.
Yeah, me too.
I tie goats, and if my foot's all the way in there in the goat time, my horse is gonna drag me around the arena for 20 minutes because I'm not gonna be able to get it out.
Most riders will justify, I have to have my foot in there because that's how they started and because that is what's comfortable. But is that the best decision according to our physiology and the mechanics? We're more athletic on the ball of our foot. The arch of the foot is soft tissue. So I love that you're riding on the ball of your foot. I want to talk more in class about the angle of your knee. And I'm curious, did you poke holes in this head stall when you got this bit?
My dad put 1 or 2 holes in it.
Okay.
But I have room to put some more in it too.
Okay. You're so close. I mean, I think the head stall is good. The reins are the main thing that we're going to change. I'm curious about your saddle. So we've got a sample bullseye floating around the team. And so if you want to get on the list to try it, talk to Lori and you can have a free trial of that. Because to me, it looks like from your hip joint right here to your knee, you've got some tension there.
Yeah, I've talked, my dad and I've got 2, that's a Robbie Phillips.
Okay.
And it's comfortable, but I do feel like this one the other one that I had, I was riding it and I quit riding. My older sister rode him for me and the other one, and she said, I think that this puts my feet behind me worse than the other one. And she's like, and you already have a problem like getting your feet behind you and then getting your chest down. So let's try and eliminate that as much as we can with your saddle. So my dad and I talked about like buying a different saddle and stuff, but we just haven't figured out what to get yet. So my dad's like, well, we're not spending much money to buy you a saddle to then have it not work.
Agreed. So if you want to test a bullseye, get on the list. It's a free trial for interactive members at Stall High, and pay attention to what you feel in your hip joint and in your knees. So if it just feels like, wow, you know what? I actually feel stronger and more comfortable. I feel more relaxed, but I'm more secure and confident. That's what we're going for in the bullseye. So guys, if you are watching right now live on one of our other platforms, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and you need help with your horse, you suspect there could be a mental block, that's what we're here for. And we make it super easy and very affordable because our coaching and our mentorship program is all online. So very easy for everyone to get access to. If you are a visual learner like me, perfect, because you're going to get to watch how-to instructional videos. And the beauty about learning online is that you can be more consistent. It is absolutely not practical to go live at your trainer's house. If you already have a professional trainer, maybe you don't have one. Maybe you don't have access to a professional trainer in your community. Most people are blessed if they have one go-to person with credentials. At Stall High, you get 5. You get 5 professional mentors every week, Monday through Friday. We go live. So if you join the interactive level of mentorship, you have unlimited classes every week. All you have to do to get started is download the Stall High app. It's in the App Store and Google Play. And without further ado, I want to introduce our guest speaker today. So one thing that I've noticed in the horse world, and I believe we're all guilty of it, we pride ourselves in taking immaculate care of our horses. Thank you, lifeenthusiast.com. We pride ourselves on taking such great care of our horses. Our horses many times have better insurance and healthcare benefits than we do. We buy expensive feed. My feed bill was many times more than our grocery bill. My horse gets more new shoes than I do. My horse gets to go see the vet and get health care. My horses get to go to the chiropractor more than I do. My horses would go to swim therapy, massage therapy. Just I would go to such extreme lengths to make sure that my horses were physically fit and at optimum performance level. But to do that, many times I neglected my own health. And I've been through struggles with both Lyme disease. I've been diagnosed with melanoma over the years. I have totally burned the candle at both ends to the point where it made no sense, mentally, physically, spiritually, or financially. But I'm hardwired to rodeo. I'm dogged about it. I'm so passionate about my horses, and it's what I love doing most with my horse. That's barrel racing and that's rodeo. So many times I made the mistake of not reading my own dashboard, not picking up on my own check engine lights. And so without further ado, I want to introduce today's guest speaker, Martin. Martin Pytela. How's it going today?
He's not in yet, Kendra.
Okay. Well, can you send him the Zoom link, please? Let's get Martin here.
I did.
Okay. Hang on, guys. Let me send him as well. Actually, I'm going to let you do that because I don't have his cell phone number on this laptop. So I met Martin through a friend of ours several weeks ago, Greg Barnes. And we had talked to Greg at the opening party of the Country Network. Well, he starts listening to what we're doing and what we're passionate about, like solving the horse's problem by really looking at the root cause of the problem, not trying to mask the symptom, but really find the cure. And we're all about mental health and mental awareness and what was the glitch that happened first to cause the mental injury. It's always a mechanical reason, like there was too much pressure one time or not enough clarity another time, and the confusion or the discomfort or the physical pain just adds up over time. Well, what we're learning at Stall High is how important, I'm really learning how to appreciate how the mind and the muscles work together, and how sometimes subconsciously we can be defeating ourselves with the way our muscles are wired to old thoughts and to old mental injuries that we've sustained as well. And we do a pretty good job of ignoring them. Anybody else, or am I the only one?
Oh no, you're not the only one.
Okay. So Martin's very passionate. He's going to tell his story about challenges that he's been through physically. He realized how it compounded and resulted in questionable mental health as well. I found that to be true. Personally, when I was diagnosed finally with Lyme disease, oh man, I'd been suffering from weird symptoms for almost a decade. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. And they were intermittent. They would come and go and they would change. And I would just think every time I got really, really sick, I would think, I must be such a wimp. Like I must be such a weakling. I was so mentally hard on myself because I didn't understand the root problem. And once I finally got diagnosed, I realized I wasn't crazy. And that was a relief in itself. Because sometimes I would think, man, like I've been sick for so long, I don't even remember what it feels like to feel good. And it did a mental number on me. So my story in a nutshell, when I was finally diagnosed with Lyme disease, and I had it for sure, because back when I was bitten, all of my joints locked up. I was in extreme pain, and I got the big bright red bullseye rash on the side of my torso. Well, I took some doxycycline, but not enough. And so protocol now, we didn't know back then, but now you're supposed to take doxy for like 10 weeks. Well, I maybe took it for 5 days. I didn't kill all the little bad guys. So, and I didn't even know until a decade later, I get diagnosed. I was basically a shell of a person dealing with all of these weird symptoms, excruciating migraines on a regular basis, on a monthly basis. My migraines would last about 5 days. And on 2 occasions sent me to the emergency room. The doctor that diagnosed me, his cure was antibiotics and a ton of supplements. So it was just this nuclear warfare with antibiotics on my body. And even though I could function, Jordan, I was getting by. I was just muscling my way, just gutting my way through it, training horses. And I was a person who could ride 9 to 11 horses a day. Through the process of taking so many antibiotics and so many supplements, I got so weak and just loopy, real loopy on medicine. My family and I would celebrate if I got on one horse a week. And I laid on the couch for the bulk of a year. And mentally, that was hard. It was really hard. I questioned, like, is this my life now? Am I ever going to come back from this? Like, what's on the other side of this? It went on for so long. I started to question, maybe I'm going to be like this forever. And that was scary to me. What I realized, because I had made a commitment to teach a clinic that summer, and I really wanted to be there. So my husband drove me, because there was no way I could drive. Like, I couldn't even get myself to town, which is 10 minutes away. There was no way I was going to drive myself 3 hours one direction. So we had a motorhome at the time. He loaded everything. He drives me in the motorhome. I told my team, like, I'm going to have to pick up some slack. Like, I don't even know if I could do this without passing out. And I told my husband, I said, I really don't want to take my medicine this weekend, because I get sick at my stomach when I do. And I just don't want to be sick at my stomach in front of people. And I really want to be able to teach. And Chad, super supportive, he goes, well, it ain't going to kill you. Just don't take them for the weekend. And I didn't. And I noticed about halfway through the morning, I'm like, I'm not huffing and puffing. I don't feel like I'm going to pass out. I think I'm going to make it to lunch. I make it to lunch. I make it to midday. I made it through the whole day and day 2. And I was like, this is so cool. I did so much more than I thought I could. On the way home, I will never forget, we stopped at an Arby's, got something to eat. I started taking those medicines, started taking those meds again, and I instantly got sick. So by the time we drove another 2 hours home, when I stepped off of that motorhome to walk in the house, it felt like someone had layered like 5 wet blankets on top of me in the middle of summertime, and then told me to go walk down the shoreline of sand. It was just this heavy oppression physically. Like, I didn't realize until I could feel the difference how far I had slipped from a baseline. I didn't realize, I guess I just didn't realize how unhealthy I was. There's Martin. Hey, Martin.
Hi.
I'm so glad you made it. Hello.
Yeah, I had no idea. This is my first time. I don't know how you're running this show. I thought that it was just you and I getting together.
Welcome. No,
Hello.
you're live. You're live on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, and Zoom. So we've got some of our Stall High members here. I was telling about how
should have gone to get a haircut for that.
you look fabulous, and I like your glasses.
Thank you.
I was telling my story about Lyme disease, and when I got diagnosed and they basically just nuclear blasted me with so many antibiotics for so long, and I became so weak and so sick, I lost north. Like, I just lost who I was. And until I could feel the difference, because I took a two-day off weekend for my meds, and I was like, wow, I'm functioning. And then immediately when I started taking them again, I got real sick. And physically, I could just feel the burden. Like it was taxing just to walk across the driveway and get back in the house. So you're very passionate about health. You've had to really fight for your health as well. And what we love talking about at Stall High is education, education, education. And I love that you are all about education, equipping people with knowledge for nutrition so that we can make the best decisions for ourselves. So tell us a little bit about your background and how did you, like, what fueled you to start Life Enthusiast?
Yes. I grew up in a veterinarian's household. My dad was a veterinarian, big animal veterinarian, back in the Czech Republic. So this was, the 1950s, 60s when I was growing up. So he actually dragged me to watch him turning calves inside of cows that were laboring, and I watched him take the testicles of hogs and horses and stallions and whatnot, all that stuff. So anyway, but I was growing up in a family that was strongly into science. Like he was an MD, right? Dr. Pytela. And so I grew up with that. So I grew up trusting the system. I grew up trusting science. I grew up believing that the professional would know, that the professional was serving my best interest. So when I showed up in Canada in 1977, I trusted the dentist to do the right thing by me. Well, that's not how it works. I ended up with 12 amalgam, which is mercury silver amalgam fillings, which very quickly turned me from a strapping, strong 25-year-old lad into a cripple that was heading for a life of wheelchair, because my body started falling apart. First my infections blew up. Like I had herpes infection that I've never had a breakout of, but after the first 3 fillings went in, poof, I had herpes on my face. And then my back went, I got carpal tunnel syndrome, plantar fasciitis, then I got periodontal disease, then I started getting allergies. Like, I was heading downhill pretty bad. Like 2-3 times a year, I would get such a bad back reaction that I was sleeping face down on a rocking chair because I couldn't lay on my back. And I would roll off the rocking chair and crawl on all fours to the toilet because I couldn't stand up. That sort of bad back, right? Not just, oh yeah, you're a little sore. No, I couldn't walk. So after about 10 years of trying every sort of a thing, right? Like I first went to see the orthopedic surgeon for the foot pain. Well, he gave me hydrocortisone shots, and 6 weeks later, it was all back except worse. So then I saw chiropractors. I would go see a chiropractor twice a week in order to maintain my general wellness or general ability to just work, do stuff. What else? Well, anyway, so it kept going, right? It kept getting worse, and until about 10 years in, I had this elimination moment, right? Either I will figure it out or I want out of here. And by out of here, I mean out.
Mm-hmm.
And well, anyway, so I just switched. Like I used to be, my education is as a systems analyst. I have a degree in computer science and business administration. So I know how to do science. I know how to analyze things.
Mm-hmm.
That's my training. I used to do information technology stuff, right? So I was working and I was earning well, like I was well paid, but I was spending 6 figures on healthcare because I was trying to figure it out. anyway, eventually I just quit. I quit the doctors, I quit the chiropractors, I quit the naturopaths, because in the end, I realized that when you analyze it as a business analyst, you always go for the cause, right? You always ask, and what is the cause of this? Turns out that in the medical industry, they don't. In the medical industry, whether they call themselves allopathic or mainstream, or the alternative, which is just, instead of antibiotic, let's use garlic, and instead of aspirin, let's use white willow bark. They still think symptom treatment. They catch you, well, you have a bad back, therefore we need to be fixing your back. They did not ask, what is the cause of that? Which in my case was the mercury poisoning causes the weakening of the structures of the tendons, so the carpal tunnel, the plantar fasciitis, and also of the discs. So if you could visualize an automobile, a tire, if you underinflate the tire, what happens? It squishes and bulges out. Well, when you have a weak disc between your vertebrae, the gravity squishes them and bulges them out. And as they bulge, they push on the nerves and you start getting nerve problems. And as they are weaker, they wobble, right? So your structure doesn't hold. You can go to a chiropractor, get yourself adjusted, you're in perfect alignment, and next day or third day or whatever, you're out again because it doesn't hold together. So that was the end, right? Like, analyze this. So I analyzed it and came up with the hell with the medical industry. They are all doing it wrong. And I dove in. This was before internet. This is about 1988, 89. So I'm in libraries and buying books and reading. And I did figure it out. I actually had it on paper back in 1979, just by trying to think my way through it. I had my hair analysis done. And I remember looking at it and reading, why am I off the chart high in mercury? I don't eat that much tuna. It never dawned on me that my mouth was full of mercury, because the dentist didn't tell me he was loading me with mercury. I didn't know that a silver filling meant we're loading you with mercury. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's much like your story where you're telling that you went to the doctor with your symptoms and you were told, well, this is what we're going to do. And we're going to, in the end, it's almost like they are walking around with blindfolds, or maybe just blinders, right? As long as we only see that which we want to see. And in medical world, it's really accentuated.
Well, everything you're saying, yes, it applies to my medical history, but let me tell you what, because my horses mean so much to me, you are lighting it up. You are striking such a strong bullseye for what I'm experiencing in the horse industry. Those blinders, we only see what we want to see. Yeah, we will confess, oh yeah, the muscles in the back end, the motors in the back end. We need to have a horse who's aware of their hindquarters. All the while, we only train and we constantly fix and monkey with what we see in front of us from the saddle horn forward. That's what gets the most attention, when it's all the muscles in the back. Those are the most important muscles. The ones in front are the softest, that you should really spend the least amount of pressure touching. But you said that you trusted the professionals. Now, every one of us here in Stall High, that's why we're here, because we just trusted status quo. We saw other people doing it, so we just had faith going with the crowd. And now it's made a big mess of our horse, and that's why we're here. But what I'm really fascinated to learn, and what I'm excited to have you along with this journey so that we can learn from you. We're so willing to take care of our horse's health that we neglect our own, but we don't really do the math. We don't analyze it. We don't really consider, in our lack of awareness, in our neglecting our own, how much of that actually becomes a burden to the horse.
Yeah.
We're actually defeating our entire purpose, like your job. I was making good money, but I was spending it all just to go to work.
Yep, exactly that. Well, two metaphors come to mind. The first one is in an airplane, when they are doing the pre-flight announcement, they say, if we should depressurize, an oxygen mask will come down. Please put your own on first. Before you can help anyone, you must be able to continue stay conscious, right? You lose oxygen, you're done. Well, in the same way, if you lose your health, like for example, if your spine goes like mine did, the just the thought of getting on a horse is out of range. You're going to do 2 or 3 bounces and goodbye,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
So, well, number one, so that is caused by toxicity, right? The stuff that happened to me was industrial toxins. How do you get industrial toxins in your body? One, it comes from your mother, because the placenta is in fact a detox organ. So a baby, especially the first and second born, get a bigger load into their early day. Two, if you get vaccinations, they come with adjuvants, and an adjuvant is either aluminum, mercury, or some other crappy thing. So you get that, and then you start eating food. And if you eat fish, especially things like tuna, mahi-mahi, and whatever, the bigger fish, they are, because they are at the top of the food chain, they concentrate, right? It's all concentrating. The low on the food chain concentrate. So the plankton is eaten by little fish by middle fish by bigger fish, and those are eaten by the biggest fish. And the biggest fish are the best tasting ones, but they're also the most loaded. So when you eat that, you are becoming more toxic. And then you get into traffic. And you're going to be following someone who's burning fossil fuels and pushing on brake pads, and the metal of the brake pad is burning through friction, and you're inhaling all that. And then you get on machinery. You start touching metal things like bare steel or aluminum pipe if you do irrigation. And I don't know if you know this, but some people will work with aluminum pipe until they're shiny.
Yes. So I've heard of some cases of skin turning, and my dad used to tell my mom and I, because we love to go rodeo so much, he said, you girls just love to smell that diesel burn. Like, we live outside. Yes, we're around heavy machinery. We're around fly spray because the flies drive our horses nuts. So, I mean, there's so many things that we expose ourselves to without even thinking twice of the repercussion.
Well, and so men working in shops, welding, right? Or what do you do when you're welding things? You're just evaporating metal. You're gasifying it. You inhale it. It's in you. So now what? Well, the human design, much like the horse design, is not set up for getting rid of heavy metals. There's no mechanism for getting that out. So the immune system freaks out about it and tries to hide it, sequestration, hiding it in low circulation places. The low circulation tissues in your body is fat, cartilage, and bone. Right? No veins, no organs. Just keep it away from the heart, keep it away from the liver, because those are critically important. So we just hide it in the peripherals.
You're about to blow our mind, aren't you?
I which?
You're about to blow our mind with where this is going, because we just don't know. So our body is storing these things in low circulation areas, like hidden to us. They're dormant until what happens?
Well, so if, for example, you have pH, as pH swings around, right? When you're more acidic for some reason, I can explain that later, then you need to buffer that. So the buffering mineral is calcium. It's stored in your bone. So it needs to come out of solid into liquid, into your lymphatic system to buffer it. And in the process of dissolving the bone, which results in osteoporosis, you're not lighter. It's just that some of the calcium, instead of being in your bone, is now in your lymphatics in your fluids in your body, buffering the acidity. And hey, I'll tell you a horse story. So horse has an incredible ability to release oxygen, and it's called protonization or biodynamic transmutation of elements. And what happens is the calcium that's stored in the bone comes out of the bone, releasing magnesium and oxygen. And the oxygen is used in burning the fuel, in creating the energy for running, and the magnesium stay in circulation. And then when you release the effort, like, you just stop racing, you put the horse out to graze or something like that, then by breathing, it puts in oxygen, combines it with the magnesium, and stores it back into the bone. So you can't keep on running the horse all day long, because you will just completely lose all of the bones.
Okay.
You can do sprints, but you can't do 40 miles of sprints.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So we're closing up our hour. You're actually going to be with us on a more regular basis. So this was
All right.
our first introduction today to get to know you, Martin, to get to understand what makes you passionate about taking care of people. And I love that you do have a large animal background, because you're going to understand our lifestyle. You're going to understand what we care most about. And it is a choice for us. We gladly, willingly expose ourselves to these things because we love what we do so much, and we love our horses so much. So I'm very excited to learn from you throughout this season. Going into the national finals, we'll be checking in with you on a very regular basis to really,
Mhm.
I like how you said that, like, analyze it.
Mhm.
The healthcare profession and the horse profession, many people are not analyzing. They're not analyzing the root cause of the behavior
Mhm.
problems. They're not even considering the mental block. So what you bring, your expertise and your passion to the table at Stall Talk, is really helping us understand where the physical deficits are that are just throwing a kink in the whole system. So where is the system clogged? Because mind and muscles are attached, whether we realize that or not, or how much we realize it. And ultimately, our horse absorbs the shock. We talked about that in our review today. Our horse is the brunt of what's not working. So
Mhm.
whether it's a mechanical thing, a physical thing, a mental thing, the horse is really carrying the load, and they get the shortest end of the stick, even though on the surface level, it looks like they're getting the best care. Not
Mhm.
always though. So
Yeah.
Martin, thank you so much. So we will be dropping links to your website. It is life-enthusiast.com. If you didn't catch that earlier on the screen, we will share that again in all of our comment section. If you have questions, if you want to continue learning from Martin and you have a specific question to ask him, reach out to us, info@stallhigh.com. We'll make sure you're invited to the next episode of Stall Talk. And Martin, we just look forward to having you back and learning more.
All right. Let me know when that is.
Okay, we will. Thanks,
Thank you.
guys. Thanks for being here. Trisha, can I call on you real quick? Because you're new to Stall Talk today. And you've learned firsthand. I was talking to her today, Martin. So she's learned the importance of health, and you've really had to fight for that and make some drastic changes too, right, Trisha?
Yes. That's so, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
So what he was saying about his back, how horses compensate with pain, that's what I was doing with my back. So I wasn't really riding right because it hurt for me to ride right. So
Okay.
it's compensating for my pain to make it easier on me. It was hard for me to get with her because of the way I was riding. So
Okay.
every time someone would help me with her and fix her, I kept messing her up because I couldn't ride right. So that's why I was like, okay, I gotta fix me. Not only the way I ride, definitely. I was like, but my back it hurt so bad. My knuckles were getting to where I couldn't shut them and blah, blah, blah. I completely got off of all the foods I was eating, especially the seed oils.
Okay.
For my joint pains. And I said, I started just looking into different things, and seed oils was on like sunflower seed oil was in everything. And I said, okay, let me get off this first. And I started taking turmeric, and they had put me on gabapentin, everything else, and I'm off all my medicines, and nothing is hurting except for my lower back now. So I'm not completely just woohoo doing cartwheels, but I'm on my way, and my muscle tone is starting to pick up, and I'm starting to work out, and it don't hurt me to work out. I don't know what was wrong with me. I just think a lot of it was the horrible foods I was eating. So now I don't eat it. If it's not natural, it's got more than 3 or 4 ingredients in it. I don't
Okay. So you're breaking up a little bit, but thank you for sharing that story.
eat it.
We're going to talk tonight.
Gotta be
in
natural.
class. Yeah. So
So
we're going to tonight in class
that's
about
where I'm at now.
tonight in class. We're going to talk about. You said you
Still
still
hear
got
me?
residual. Yes. We kind of have
There
a
it goes.
delay talking over each other.
Yeah,
There we
she's
go.
coming with a long delay.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
the Wi-Fi out there in the field, which is just not good
Just
enough.
cell service. Well, we're going to talk tonight in class about why her lower back might be hurting. So there are some angles, some simple tack adjustments we'll cover tonight in class. But I'm so glad that she made it, Martin, because there's a
Mhm.
case study right there. I heard
Yeah.
something the other day that hit me. People only change when they hurt so bad they have to change. It's so painful they have no choice. When they learn enough that they want to change, and when they receive enough that they can change. So you are here, you are talking to people who want to learn. We are a collective sponge. We're a community who cares enough about our horse, both physically and mentally, that we want to take care of ourselves and educate ourselves as riders. So
Yeah.
that's a wrap for
We
this
need
week
to
on
take-
Stall High. Martin, thank you so much for coming
All right.
back.
Yeah,
Being
take
here.
care of the rider, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thanks,
See you.
everybody. I'll see you next Tuesday. And for my interactive members, I'll see you tonight in class at 6:00. If you have
See ya.
questions for your horse, just go download the Stall High app. We are here to help. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you next Tuesday.